Good noon to everyone. Uh, Today discuss about computer aided process synthesis. Unit number 6, design and scheduling of batch processes. મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ ચેપ્ટર છે. એમાંથી 7 to 14 માર્ક્સનું કવર થાય છે ચેપ્ટરમાં. તો ફર્સ્ટ ઓફ ઓલ તો આપણે જઈશું ઓબ્જેક્ટિવ. Simply discussion part for this is this chapter introduce some strategies for designing and scheduling batch processes. It begins with a single equipment item, focusing on method of achieving the optimal batch processing time and the batch wise, and then reactor separator processing are examined where trade of the exist between the reactions conservation as it varies with the reaction time, the cost of some separation which decide decrease with the conversion and the batch cycle time. Okay, this chapter introduces simply some strategies for designing and scheduling batch processes. It begins with a single equipment item, focusing on a method for achieving the optimal batches time and the batch size. Also, the reactor separator processes are examined wherein some trade offs exist between the reactions conservation as it varies with the reaction time, the cost of separation which decreases with the conversion and the batch cycle time, and subsequently method of scheduling batch processes with recipes having a numerous task and equipment items are considered. Initially schedules are considered for plant involving a single product produced in the production part that are repeated from to batch process. In this chapter conclude with the strategies for designing multi-product batch plant. After studying in this chapter, readers should be first one, be knowledgeable about process unit executed in a batch mode and approaches for optimizing the design and this operation. Know how to determine the optimal reactions time for a batch reactor separation processes. Again repeated, be knowledgeable about processes unit executed in a batch mode and some approaches for optimizing the designing and operation. Now, how to determine the optimal reactions time for a batch reactor separation processes. Be able to scheduling these recipes for a production part of a single chemical product. Now, be able to schedule recipes for the productions of a single chemical product. Understand how to schedule batch process and batch plant for the productions of multiple processes. Now, the continuous process are dominated in the chemical process industries for the manufacturing commodity. Some introductions part, objective and also introduction. This is a continuous process dominant in these chemical processes, some industries basis, and the how to optimize design and scheduling of a batch processes wise. Okay, જેમાં સ્ટેજ વાઇઝ આપણે દરેક પોઈન્ટ જોવાના છે. Continuous process are dominant in the chemical process industries for the manufacturing commodity chemicals, plastic, petroleum, some product, paper and etc. When the some productions rate are low, however, say in the manufacturing of a specialty chemical from pharmaceutical and electronic material, it is difficult to justify the construction of a continuous plant compromised small vessel and the pipes. In this case, it is common to design batch processes or simultaneously process that are hybrids between batch and continuous processes. The alternative investment are illustrated schematically in this figure with a continuous processes shown in a figure 12.12a આપણે જે ફિગરમાં જોવાનું છે સ્ટેપ વાઇઝ ફિગરમાં જોઈશું in a batch process reactor feed before the step 1 and the product are removed after the step 3 and the processing step 2 occurs feed batch processes combine the first two steps with some or all the chemical being fed continuously during this process and the some processing then when the processing is finished the some product are the removed batch wise as shown in the figure. Okay, is the continuous and batch processes. First one is a continuous process, second one is a batch process, third one is a feed batch process and a batch product removal process. Okay, the first one is there. Okay, figure 2 कर लो बन्ने ऑल फिगर ड्रो कर दो જેમાં કન્ટિન્યુઅસ અને બેચ પ્રોસેસ છે પહેલી ફર્સ્ટ વન સેકન્ડ વન થર્ડ વન અને ફોર્થ વન કન્ટિન્યુઅસ અને બેચ પ્રોસેસીસ છે કન્ટિન્યુઅસ પ્રોસેસ છે બેચ પ્રોસેસ ફીડ બેચ પ્રોસેસ અને બેચ પ્રોડક્ટ પ્રોસેસ ડ્રો ધીસ ઓન ફિગર. Okay, now the discussion part. Figure 12.1c. In the batch process is removed. The chemical are fed to the process before the processing begin in the step 2 and 3 and combined chain. That is the product is removed continuously process in the occurs as shown as figure 12.1. In effect, feed batch and the batch product removal processes are the semi-continuous processes. And the challenge is the designing a batch and a feed batch processes, batch product removal processes is in deciding on the size of the vessel and the processing time. This is complicated for the later two processes where the flow rate and concentration of this feed stream or the flow rate on the product stream as a function of time strongly influence the some performances of the batch processes. Note that the determinations of optimal operating profits is referred to the solution and the optimal control problems. This subject is introduced in the next section. Okay, so the batch process and semi-continuous processes are utilized often when some production rate are small residence, time is the large and the product demand is intermediate, especially when the demand for a chemical is intercept with the demand for one or more other products and the quantities needed and the timing of the order are uncertain. even when the demand is continuous product that is sufficiently justify in this batch process and a semi batch process. Now the semi continuous process are often designed to provide a reliable and the inefficient to the production of chemical. For example, in the emulsion polymerization processes of the resins, and the large batch reactor are installed. These avoid carrying out these highly exothermic reactions and the continuous stir tank reactor. Not that, however, that while operations at a low conservation, steady state is often less profitable than the batch or semi-continuous processing, and this operation at open loop unstable steady state conditions is a more profitable rather than they install a control system to be stabilized, and that is some operations. Many companies prefer to operate in a batch or semi-continuous mode. Similarly, the design teams often optimizations for a batch and a continuous semi-continuous process when the chemicals are hazardous or toxic when safety aspect are of great concern. Because the design for continuous and batch processes are usually very different, the choice of a processing mode is made commonly during this process and a synthesis. In the task integration steps, as I discussed in a section 3.4 part as these stages in a decision to reject continuous processes. In based upon the rules of the thumb and rather than the detailed comparisons of the alternative investment, and through the some processes simulation as discussed in this chapter for optimization method, some process previous batch and continuous processes usually for this from productions and quantities for a high process chemical. Okay, now in the some example for usually productions and some chemically high process chemically such as in the manufacturing process, some pharmaceutical process, food electronic materials, and especially chemical feed batch and batch product removal some processes are preferred. This is often the case in a bioprocessing. For some example, when drugs are synthesized in a series of chemical reaction having small yield and requiring difficulties to recover small amount of the product, and this is also in the case banquet facilities in the hotels which is prepared to food batches, many unit operations in a manufacturing process, semiconductors as discussed in this chapter 3. Now for many four processes જે આપણે અબોવમાં જોઈ ગયા involved in the sequences to task to the carried out in this various of equipment. In the later section of this chapter, variations on batches processes scheduling are discussed as well as method for optimizing the schedules. Okay, so in a figure continuous and a batch processes એમાં first check continuous processing, batch processing, feed batch processing and a batch product removal processes. Okay, all discussion part in a Sony's figure. And a batch processes, semi batch and a continuous processing, and the last one is the removal. Now the some challenging in the design based processes and the deciding on the size of the vessel and the processing time for this is complicated. Later to the processes can be flow rate and the concentration of the feed stream or the flow rate of the product stream as a functions of a time strongly influence the performances and the some processes not that the determinations of optimal operating some profit is referred to as the solution to the optimal control problems. This subject is introduced in the next section. Okay, so thank you so much.